thank you for your patience. This is like 100 years ago, so the silent movie. So thank you for everything, everybody. I would very much first leverage on introducing yourself a little bit, if we could go like that, and then we might turn back to this upbeat issue and also to the theme. So please, Toomas, can you start introducing yourself?
Good morning. My name is Toomas. I come from Tallinn, Estonia. I own a small record label management company called Made in Baltics. It's in joint venture with Sony Music. And some years ago, we actually released an album by a folk artist called Trad Attack, who is actually one of the biggest bands in Estonia.
Thank you, Mirko.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Mirko. You probably know me from the bar, maybe, or Croatia, I don't know. Dario, don't smile. Originally from Šibenik, now living in Zagreb. I work in a Croatian music export office called Vimu Music Croatia. We are like, I don't know how to say it, like 8 of us are like a little bit crazy to start this project and to push the Croatian artists abroad. So I think when you mentioned the best Estonian act, or the famous, Pulup is one of them. So yeah, but I don't know what to say, anything else, but that's me, yeah.
Hello, my name is Garfield. I'm co-director of Pop-Up Music, which we are a sync agent and a music publisher. We're based in London at the famous Rack Studios, and we represent a large catalogue of one-stop music, plus some hits from the Rack catalogue, and yeah, lots and lots of different types of music from all around the world.
The original idea, what we were thinking to put through on this panel was what it puts here, folklore, but I would call traditional music, maybe a little bit covering better the notion that we would like to put, and how to get to mainstream. And in the panel, I think we have channels or representatives how to do this, and I think both all three panelists members here are having a lot of hats on them. So we just realized that Mark himself is a drummer. I'm sure Marco has also got some musical background, and surely Toomas is doing some.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Failed musician.
So I think there are a couple of parts of the music ecosystem that we could cover here, and what we were thinking about is whether the traditional music is something that is helping artists, managers, ecosystem to get to the mainstream or not, and this is what we were thinking to cover here. Just before putting you any questions, direct questions, do you have anything to add or?
I do, certainly. I think in my world of sync and putting placements of music into film and television, folk music and kind of what I would call a hybrid of folk and modern music is very much a trend. Obviously, TV shows and films are set in locations and times, so depending on where you're shooting, you know, if you take a TV series like Killing Eve, and you know she suddenly goes on a killing spree here in Bulgaria, then someone like myself as a publisher needs to have music to give to the music supervisor to then put into that show. So something could be just straight ahead traditional, or they might want something a bit wild and crazy and exciting, and that's where I think, you know, the hybrid thing comes in really well, in the sense that you can take traditional music and then just mix it up and put something modern with it. I just come back from Colombia And a lot of Colombian musicians are doing exactly that. So they're taking a lot of their traditions, but they're mixing it with modern music. So you have cumbia with trap or hip hop or even psychedelic rock and stuff like this. But it's always kind of got this little Latin touch to it with the
percussion
and the vocals. And it's, to me, it's really exciting.
I think the center of music development is South America. I fully agree.
Yeah, just from Estonian perspective, I think, for example, with Tradetak, you know, they started using samples of old Estonian traditional music, but they never. Of course, they define themselves as kind of part, traditional world music band as well. But I think their general approach is that they want to be Coldplay, and they also use the kind of pop music tactics, and I think we had this case where. Like when you're, as an Estonian, when you're listening to Tradetak music, you know that its background is in, traditional music. But for example, we licensed a couple of Tradetak instrumentals to Red Bull, who used the music in Chile skateboarder videos or Dakar rally videos. And so if you listen to some of that music as an outsider, you may not even think it's like a traditional music. So actually most or a lot of Estonian music export success stories are actually from traditional folk music background, whether it's puuluup, whether it's tuoru, Tradetak, Mari Kalkun. Like there's an Estonian folk singer-songwriter, Mari Kalkun, who just released an album on Peter Gabriel's record label. So yeah, I think it's also kind of about the perception is that don't let that even if you're making folk or traditional music, don't kind of have a wider approach.
I mean, let's face it, the Rolling Stones did exactly that.
Exactly.
Need I say?
Exactly.
So what I think Mark has mentioned, this trend is something that we keep hearing here in every day in this conference as well. Marko, did you wanted to add anything to this before we go on to this trend issue?
In Croatia is the similar situation like in Estonia, but I must say the most project was a big push up for the Croatian bands to apply for the most project and to go abroad. It's like they have some gigs in region, like ex-Yugoslavia region, but except that, for example, Womex, we didn't have Croatian band on Womex for decades. So I think that's the great potential and great start for the. I'm now looking for the Croatian bands that have opportunity to go on some showcase festivals like Womex is the biggest one for the world music. So I think that's shout out to most projects.
So let me just try to put this into context, maybe for everybody. So first, what is most is a project that is trying to bringing artists to another professional career level. So there is training, there is showcasing potential, there is demo material potential, and all of this is financed through the European Union, and also it has a festival exchange addition to it. So the basic idea was to push artists to a further level on the career, and Marko himself just started up a new showcase festival in Šibenik or Sibenik, how you pronounce it? Šibenik, which is called SHIP, as far as I understand. And I think it's a good example that showcase is getting important in the region, and artists are getting awareness through showcases. So I think that's one trend that is very interesting. The other trend that Mark is also representing it, beside being a producer, but also as a sync agency, that folklore or the traditional thing is something like a branding or an illustrative trend in the film and trailer and other businesses.
Yeah, very much so. In terms of bringing excitement to a project, let me give you an example. So we sunk a Japanese artist from the 1950s who mixes all sorts of traditions into her music, but then it was also very westernized. So if you can imagine sort of Shirley Bassey sung in Japanese, we got this in a really cool TV show, and it just brings so much of a different dynamic to the scene, because it's, where does that come from? What is that? It's very different. I mean, another example is we did a movie where the director, it was a sci-fi movie, and they wanted the helmets of the astronauts to be listening to a music that wasn't really earthly. So they really struggled, because obviously we all live on planet Earth, and all the music's right. Yeah, I guess that's slightly unearthly. I need to listen to that. But the particular music we ended up syncing was some 60s Cambodian music, which is kind of like American surf rock, but with Cambodians sung over the top of it. So it's so strange, and it really worked, because it really did sound, for a better word, alien.
Yeah. And to continue this framing of who we are and what we are representing here, I understand that Toomas, sorry if I pronounce it badly, is building up a catalog, but also branding up a catalog in Estonia, and only Estonian musicians, as far as I understand.
Yeah, we started the label in 2018, and of course, the brand is made in Baltics. So I think, from the very beginning, when I was traveling around as an artist manager, so everybody was kind of looking at the region as a whole. So of course there is Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, but it was like the Baltics. And as an artist manager, since the very beginning, I started working in Estonia and Latvia, because kind of the countries, the markets were like almost in the same place in terms of like how the music business had evolved. So it's mainly Estonian music. We've worked with a few Latvian artists as well. Since we started in 2018, and because of kind of the COVID situation, it's been mainly that kind of remaining on the Baltic market, but now definitely going further as well again.
So the reason why I was putting it like this is that when you would like to just go and try to click on that website that Toomas has, I think it's balticmusics.eu, what you've got.
Madeinbaltics.eu.
So please try to click on that during we are here, and just check the images what this site is putting through. When I was checking this site, I was thinking about whether you are branding your music with Baltics, or the Baltics branding your music, or how did you approach this difficult situation that what you just started to describe, that you are always perceived as the Baltics, but you might be Estonian and you might be Latvian.
To be honest, I haven't really, gone, too deep with it, because I think, first of all, the company's image is always being, kind of perceived through its people, its artists, and when the artist roster, changes over time. So the kind of the company's, image may, change as well. And you can also see it with, a lot of, big record labels that, some of them, think about, Columbia Records, for example. At one point it was kind of known for, Bob Dylan or Bruce Springsteen, and at one point by a Daft Punk, so completely different. So it's I haven't really, gone too deep, but I was just, wanting to make sure that when people, look from abroad, they understand that we operate, in that particular territory.
Yeah, clear enough. Just a little detail that Columbia has sub-labels, so it's easier in this sense for them than for yourself. That is a little bit smaller company. But why I put this question all to you, that I think there is a lot of artists on your roster that is this type of artist that we are speaking about, singer-songwriter, so kind of traditional approach to music. So I was thinking whether you ever was thinking about to put some ideas of Baltic traditions into, or do you use the Baltic traditional features in your branding, or you don't do at all?
I don't. I think that we're still in the core. We are an Estonian company, so we definitely. I think that Estonians in general have become, like over the past 15 years, have become more stronger in their self-confidence. So like taking advantage of our culture, our uniqueness, like geographically maybe being in Eastern Europe, but at the same time with one leg in Scandinavia. So I think that this is something that we try to portray in everything we do.
And I think it's very well visible on your images.
Thank you so much.
So why I'm forcing this issue a little bit, maybe too much, please tell me if it's too much for you, is that I was wondering whether you seems to be a proper label in the old sense of the ecosystem. So you have bands, you have catalog, and on your website it's clearly visible that you have A&R, you have a brand strategy and everything. So you seem to be a classic label that does all the work that an artist needs. So they just sign to you and then you give them everything.
Yeah, that's true. On the other side, my approach is that every artist relationship is actually different. Every artist comes into the company from a very different background. Some of them, like we've worked with highly established Estonian artists, like some of the biggest Estonian artists. And we also, I personally, I really love to work with, brand new artists and helping them to, go through and come up with a strategy and vision, etc. So in a way, with each and every artist, there is like a completely different approach. So there is no standardization in terms of the agreement. So with one artist, it could be like a 360 deal. With one artist, it could be a classic record label deal. And so it's always what both parties in that particular relationship, like what are they looking for?
So what I was referring here, that in the old days, a label could had enough income to finance all these 360 deals and everything. But nowadays, a simple label cannot afford
True.
to finance all the steps that is needed for a strategy. So how do you survive in this new ecosystem?
I mean, for us, of course, when we started, the big support came from a major label who also kind of put investment on the table so that we could kind of kick off and hire people and record music and start building the catalog. And I actually think that I've come to understand this, that in our small territories, we also need to start thinking about getting investment, from outside of our ecosystem. And I think there's money available, but I think that we need to make it understandable to business people as well, like how the income is generated. It doesn't the numbers doesn't have to be like huge, but you need to kind of prove that, hey, at the moment we made 1,000 euros, 5 years later we made 5,000, and within 20 years we can go to 100,000, and how that actually, by building the catalog, how that happens. And when you make it kind of simple and understandable, there is possibly money, from the outside of our ecosystem as well. And this is also something that I'm kind of working towards to.
Clear enough. I think that's great. I don't know how many artists are here, but this is a learning curve that we are all in at the moment, I think, because the musical ecosystem has changed so dramatically that it's not only that the artist faced at the moment, but also the labels. How is it in the sing business? How the change in the ecosystem affected you?
It's ever changing and it's constant, and you have to keep up with what's going on. Of course, I don't want to mention this word, but I'm going to. AI, is coming in, and that's changing the landscape completely. So we don't know where we're at in terms of copyrights, in terms of law, in terms of how you can sync something that has something which is generated by AI. Where does the copyright go? All of that has not been organised yet. So there's the metaverse as well, which is a completely unknown thing, really. But these words and things are coming into contracts. So particularly with the majors, that they want, or certainly people like Netflix want stuff into the contracts, which is unknown quantities at the moment. So it's moving very quickly, and there's no answers yet. So it's a very sort of shaky ground time.
And you as a publisher, are you mainly rely on your back catalog, or you actively working on signing new artists?
Constantly signing new artists, because we can't have enough, if that makes any sense, in terms of, and that's why I come on these missions, as I call them, to try and source local music from around the world, because projects and, as I explained earlier, music supervisors want exciting music and different types of music. So it's my job to try and source that music so that I can have it what we call one stop, so all the rights are cleared, so then I can clear the music into a project very quickly. And more and more projects rely on stuff which is maybe locally sourced in scenes in movies. And so, if there's a movie being shot in Croatia and I don't have any Croatian music, then I have to speak to my friend here, and
I will send you, don't worry.
Thank you. I've got him on speed dial. But it really is about that, to try and sign as much. So I'm very active in signing.
And in signing an artist, are you or a label? I don't know what you sign, but clearing the rights, you might be signing different things. what is that you might say to professionals and to artists here in the room? What is important for you?
It's very important that whoever is the person giving me the music, that they have everything cleared. And we spoke about this yesterday on a couple of two different panels. In terms of within a sync license, there is two sides. There's the publishing side and there's the master side. So the master side is the recording side and the publishing side is the writer's side. So you need to make sure that you have the rights to both sides of your song. So if you had a song which was signed to a record label, for instance, and the record label was like 20 years ago, and you think you're not under contract, you haven't heard from them in 20 years since you signed the deal, you need to check out that you really still are in that deal or not before you give the music to me. So it's just all about making sure that you have your rights cleared on both sides, without going into too much detail here, because that's a whole new panel.
Yeah, clearly a new panel. I definitely have a lot of issues here to discuss. I mean, in Eastern Europe, just by one point that all the publishers, all the labels has diminished, disappeared, and so on and so on.
Yeah, but the minute money comes into it, those disappeared, and
they collect the money anyhow.
Yeah, they'll soon come out of the woodwork, as we say.
Yeah.
And that's when it causes problems.
So going back to the trend, you said that one stop is important for you as a signature, or I mean as a right clearance. That besides branding a movie, a trailer, or illustrate a movie and trailer, what do you think traditional music is able or capable to do to you and to the artist, to the scene?
Well, I think you touched on it earlier, which was we were talking about there's a feeling that we have when we hear something traditional, and it doesn't matter what part of the world it's from. You sit in a pub in Dublin and you listen to some Irish folk music, you're going to be moved, and you can do that all around the world. Last night we went to a restaurant next door to the hotel here, and they had traditional music. I was with a music supervisor. First thing she's doing is going up to the DJ and asking, what's that music? This is the coolest stuff ever. So she wants to put some traditional Bulgarian music into her next project, because you could see how the music moved the room. There were obviously local people, but then there was all of us guys just really getting into it and finding it really exciting and interesting. So I think it's an emotion. I think it's.
So if I put it onto another approach or context, we've been discussing the sound of the 60s, 70s, that it's also a trend to reflect to these sounds, and to whether it's a fashion or it's a distinguished
feature.
Exactly, this is what I was to say. Thank you. I'm not sure about, but I think we can feel in the music business that there is a lot of features that coming into fashion. So what I'm is to ask whether traditional is a feature that we have among these other features, like other things like the old sound of the 60s, or it's a different trend. It's as you say, it's an emotional trend, or it's a distinguishing feature.
I think it goes back to emotions, and obviously folk music is an emotional thing, whether it be communication from how some traditional music, from just drums communicating. You go back to Congo Square in New Orleans, when the drummers were allowed to drum on the Sunday, and then they banned it because they thought they were sending messages, and then there was all these instruments left over from the Civil War, trumpets and so on, and then suddenly you've got a thing called jazz. Jazz is a huge industry.
I also I fully agree that not only I don't think about in terms of like pop music or traditional music or music needs to create emotions. And when you touched on the AI, like when you talk about, you know, the kind of classic radio pop, it's something that, you know, in a very near future, all of us can imitate. That, like AI can imitate that within, you know, a few seconds. But the true raw emotion is something that only kind of humans can kind of, you know, explore. And like I remember in Estonia, like we have this like Viljandi folk festival. So it you know, it started out quite small, but the people who went there came back and told their friends that, you know, it was so nice, it was so fun, a lot of emotions, and they brought kind of their friends the next year, and it kind of, the festival grew and grew and grew, and at one point kind of that folk music turned into mainstream without people even like thinking about that they are now kind of listening to, you know, traditional folk music, but it just brought
I played
emotion.
there in 30 years ago.
Oh, fantastic. So in the kind of in the early stages, I think.
I just want to add, I think it was like 2 days ago, the first Bulgarian band outside, it was Oranica, I think. Orantica, yeah. That's the way I think they should do it, because we had, like, you call it oro, like a circle, yeah. You have emotions there, so that's what Mark says. It's all about emotions, and I think that's the proper way to deliver the message through the music from the artist.
Also, I mean, the other word is nostalgia. So you were mentioning the 60s. Now, that's not folk music as such, although obviously there was great folk music made in the 60s by Dylan and such alike, where they were pulling tradition and, you know, doing the thing, singer-songwriter. But that word of emotional attachment is something which is filmmakers, and particularly in the ad world, they really latch onto, because it makes people feel good.
Yeah, there is an ethnomusicologist friend who says traditional music is contemporary pop at the time. So whether we're going to contemporary pop with traditional music or not, I'm not sure. But what we are speaking about, at least on emotional level, probably it's something where we are heading.
Yeah, I mean, pop music in the 70s, Joni Mitchell and that whole scene of singer-songwriter, you know, again, all music, you can trace it all back to the roots. You know, as I mentioned earlier, the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones wanted to be Howlin' Wolf, you know, and that was the blues, right? So they were pulling from a traditional music. So, you know, all music, you've got this thread of the tradition. So it's in there somewhere.
There was another thing that I was thinking to. Do you have any questions? Meanwhile, I just kind of trying to grab this idea from Keys that time to time we ask people, audience, if they have any particular question.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy. We don't bite.
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. Maybe later. So I was going to ask Darko about that. In your bio, you state that you also work in the digital work. You put out music in the digital world. Do you use traditional music and to be this exotic or people, or what do you do? How do you do your job there?
I had my own label. It's called Basic and Rough. It's a small one, but I think we are doing a good job with some artists that I think they deserve to have bigger attention. So I started in the COVID time. I moved to Prague for 1 year from Croatia, from Zagreb, and I started to looking at the European radio stations, the Spotify curators, playlists, everything, and I started to digging up. So I had made I think it's 18,000 contacts on the bunch of the emails and everything, and I started to send the emails with my artists and everything, and it started like that. But after that, I met so many people in the showcase festivals, conferences, and everything. So I made up some contacts, and it's much easier to share with them the new music from my artists on the label. So I think that's the way in this, let's call it like this time of digital era. So
you built up your digital universe in the traditional way.
Not particularly in traditional way, but yeah,
it's through personal contacts and meeting people.
Yeah,
in
but
live.
But it was COVID time. It was like Zooming and everything. So that was in that time. But now, when we can talk face to face, that's pretty much easier.
What is your success rate, or what do you call success? So what you say that you did a good job, but why is it a good job? What is that you see your success in?
I think in my humble opinion of my success job is like to have bands that they are listening in Portugal or USA or Estonia or some other countries abroad from Croatia, because they are artists, they are like, they have listeners only in Croatia. I think that's not the deal for them, because I want to share the great music with all other people or other nations. So I think that's like putting them abroad. Go from Croatia, just go.
And is it the diaspora that is listening to your music, or it's completely new audience?
I think it's completely new audience, because usually I can tell you two artists of mine is Iškariotski band from Croatia also, and Miriam. They play like Iškariotski is indie pop, so I think it's great genre to push outside. And Miriam is a singer-songwriter, but it's like poppy, jazzy, that kind of stuff. So I think that's it's not diaspora they are listening, but the new ones.
Yes, Keith.
Actually, on this agenda, we advocate, we would like, and we are talking to the big DSPs to ask them for, especially the not Anglo-American languages, to have them subtitled. It is technically possible on the streaming service, which means that then the music which you represent here and basically the theme would get a better chance to be understood in other markets, like you say, Portugal or whatever. But it's regarding a Portuguese artist, it's regarding an artist from Hungary or Estonia or whatever. And that is something it's very hard on our agenda with the DSPs. And
I don't know whether you can hear me or not. I'm not. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying the issue.
I just think it's a great idea, and like in general, what I've kind of noticed is that because of like platforms like Spotify, for example, because it has made music discovery so simple that like every week you have either the curated playlists or those algorithmic playlists, like, you know, Discover Weekly or Release Radar. It has in a way taken away this organic discovery from people, and some people have started to look for, you know, music in other languages, or kind of scrolling through the other countries' chart and then, you know, Google translating. Like I've personally done it as well, that there are like some Swedish artists, some Swedish local artists, I like the music, and then I kind of go and kind of Google translate the lyrics, and it kind of gives back a certain amount of that, you know, the old school music discovery, or you have to actively do something to you know, to discover something new. So, but I think it's a great initiative.
Yeah, Nick, please go.
It's obviously very good that there's a global lingua franca. That's very useful. But in terms of cultural domination, I think it's a bad thing. And therefore, I would take on from that and with the Impala point of view that it would be great if everything, as much as possible, for example, videos on YouTube, I also have a voice.
Great voice.
I'm a singer. Was subtitled in English, so that people were used to hearing, whether it's Chinese or Swedish or Croatian or Bulgarian, it doesn't matter, but they're used to hearing other languages than English, but also that they can understand the lyrics.
But that's on YouTube, yeah.
But just as a general point, and also, for example, just to one more on the same thing, if you release a record, of course it's difficult because people don't buy CDs or vinyl mostly and they don't listen to them, blah, blah, blah. But also to have the translation of the lyrics included in the package from the outset.
So this is what I wanted to ask from Keys, that do you need to provide the original lyrics to the DSPs, or they do it AI already?
It's that, yeah, Dario can answer that one.
I can answer, and I can give you some new information. So my name is Dario Dražata. I'm representing also Impala, but also Runda Regional Association of Independent Labels from former Yugoslavia. So this year we started to be a part of a European funded project called BELEM. BELEM is a project that's actually doing what we are talking about. Because of these reasons, the first production call will actually be by the end of this month or beginning of November. So BELEM is dedicated to first collect lyrics from all the territories, European territories. This is a European project. Then to translate them to different languages and give them to all the DSPs. So at this point you have, I think, four languages available on Deezer and on Spotify. With this, we will be able not to have AI-generated translation, but actually human translation. It is not going to be direct translation, but the closest as it's possible to different languages. So we are now creating a database of lyrics. At the same time, we have funds for translations, and also we will have funds for recording of these songs in different languages. So this is something that started this year. It's funded for the next 4 years, and hopefully it will be a first step to what we are talking about. So, and what we are now doing also inside of the project, we are doing mapping of European languages, but not just European languages, but also different languages in different territories. For instance, in Croatia, in some parts you have different variations of language. We have some really strong bands who sing in Dalmatian language or Istrian dialect. So this is what is going to, there are 15 partners with this project. Among those, there's Deezer, there's Evolution. We have Institute from Norway who is doing this, let's call it scholar work, because they specialize for language and dialects. We have Runda, we have our Portuguese sister association, AMEI, who is also involved in projects. So this is something that is needed to be done, especially, as Nick said, to end this domination on the DSPs and to give people more choice to, find out new music. Because when you know what this song is playing out, it is not just sound that you like. Then you can understand the idea, the emotion, or whatever it is about it.
Just 1 second, that I want to be paired with this one, is that we're also working on a project like this, so we already should have been talking to each other, Nuno and all the common projects. So I didn't want to advertise this part of the project that we do, but I think, as Impala is also already mentioning this is a very important part of small languages like as you said, Dalmatian or Basque or whatever.
I mean, just to relate that to my part of the business, which is sync, this is great news to my ears, because obviously when I'm doing research on a project and there are different languages within a country or different dialects, I have no clue. I'm going in here and, you know, you get it with Chinese or, you know, with Taiwanese or Mandarin or whatever we're looking at here.
And when you do the soundtrack and you want to illustrate a love story, and in the lyrics there is a killing.
Of course, yeah. No, it's exactly that. So I put it into Google Translate and it comes out with something, perhaps. But you're right. Then the music supervisor comes to me and says, "Well, hang on a second. This is a love scene, or this is a very emotional scene where someone's just lost their grandmother, and this song is talking about that."
I think it happens to all of us every day in the radio stations, that the introducer is telling a story, and when you listen to the lyrics, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, I mean, obviously lyrics can be interpreted in many different ways, but just to have a grip on the theme of it for our side of the business, it's very useful. And I would say to any artist here, when you're presenting your music, have your language, and then if you can, have the English translation as well, which goes into the metadata. We spoke about a thing called Disco yesterday in the panel in the other room. Disco is an amazing place to host your music and to send to people like myself, where you can put the metadata of your lyrics into that platform, and it travels with the song. Now, it doesn't travel with the WAV, it travels with the MP3, but that's another panel.
So, I think we can continue this discussion for ages, because we are part of this mission-wise people, or how do you say, we all of working in the same industry, but we are just about to wrap up this session. So if you have anything to add, or if you have any questions, please stand up for your rights. Yeah, here is a question.
I have a question for all of you, really. It's not quite related to what we were just speaking about, but I'm an artist, and I'm American, if you can't tell, but I play Bulgarian folklore music, and I live here in Sofia. And I have several groups. Some are based here, some are based in the United States. And something that my US-based groups run into a lot with working with different sectors of the music industry, could be festivals, could be a sync agent, could be managers, booking agents, is this concept of authenticity in folklore. And I'm wondering from really all of you, or any of you who want to speak to it, what is kind of the current pulse of this in the European and Eastern European or Northern European scene? Because in the United States, I think people are really kind of obsessed with like the exotic. And in order to, we do have a sync agent because that's a little bit different, because people aren't necessarily like looking at images of us. But for festivals, for booking agents, touring, etc., I think that they're so obsessed with like, okay, but are you all born and raised in this place? Are you all from the village? Do you all wear the traditional costume? And it's like really exotifying. And to me, it's very strange, because from a European perspective, actually, the fact that we are all diasporic people and coming together is like the most beautiful thing and kind of the most folklore thing ever. But I understand that like you need to sell things. And so I'm wondering from your perspectives, where are you at these days with this concept?
There's two sides to this. There is is this legit? Is it from that place? Because, we're doing a scene. It's in the 70s. The art director has got the right Volkswagen Beetle with the right shaped headlights that are from 1972. So this is set in Bulgaria. So we need to get some folk music from Bulgaria. Is that traditional? So there's that side of it. But there's a new side to it, which I think is really exciting, and I'll throw this back at you, which is where you have a French Americana artist. So this is a French artist that's listened to Americana as a genre and is now producing Americana music, which I think is great. And I think it's great that countries can swap genres. I mean, the UK and the States have done this historically throughout history, we tend to sell back to them what they did, and vice versa. So house music was sold back to the UK from Chicago, but it was in London to begin with. We didn't know what we had. The Americans didn't know what they had with rock and roll. We had the thing called the Beatles, and they sold it back to the rest of the world and said, "You've got this." So I think there is authenticity in a global thing where you just, so what? I'm from France, but I want to do some Japanese music. Why not? It's great.
I just finished in a couple of years ago in Sheffield University, and this was my subject. And I can tell you that in the scholar literature, there is a huge. It's again a hot topic, this authenticity issue, but I don't think it's authenticity anymore. I think it's kind of sided to different directions. So the ties with sociology and other issues like applied musicology and other things, it went just way beyond than the notion of authenticity. So I think it's a very interesting topic there in the scholar territory, but in our industry it still remains on this level, on this exotic, distinguishing, kind of little bit boring issue for scholars. So it didn't go through to the everyday discussion, what this hot topic that we have in the scholar literature. I think it's partly because of the fact that nobody understands what they discussing, because it's so complicated there. So that's my opinion. But I think what we hear, listen to, is also a similar topic, or just on a different approach. So each of us has been speaking about that, and they are doing it. I mean, these panel members are doing it every day, and with a different approach and different aspects. So Anna, again, at the end of the panel, you have the question of defining.
It's not a question. Thank you. It's not a question. It's. I just want to add something. Hello, I'm Anna. Yeah, sorry, I don't have any questions. Never, it seems. I have opinions or ideas or, my experience. So I'm Anna. I'm a singer, a body percussionist, a producer of a festival, a lot of things from Serbia. I'm part of Most Music Project, and authenticity. Our Alice in Wonder Band, that's the group that I represent and also perform with, and a lot of other things. So we perform in 11 languages of the Balkans. That's our last or first album, Rika Taka New Balkan Rhythm. And I do not know all the languages that I sing. I really wanted to know what I'm singing about. I talked to all the peoples from of different nations that the songs I'm using and singing, and I researched a lot, and I also have the translations, of course, to English language, and the idea was to bring together the whole Balkans, because we are kind of together, but we are always fighting. So the idea was to do it with the culture. And if you ask me, if you ask any scholar, am I authentic? I am not, but I'm an authentic artist, or we are authentic artists. I think that's what counts. People count. And if you take the music that you are doing seriously, if you are doing what you're doing seriously, and you put your effort, your ideas, your research into it, then you're authentic, and that's it. And that's how the folk traditions actually emerged, you know. So why not use the whole world as a world village, because it is now, so we have all of it, so why not, you know, immerse and bring the connections and bring people together, because when you mix kind of the cultures, then you bring people together, and they are much less afraid of each other, and they do not want to hate each other. They are interested in the other cultures, and they are interested in other people, and they understand that we are all people, and that's what culture should actually, in the end, do: connect us and, yeah, make us.
A good example of that,
Oh.
just to cut in there, I mean, if you look at Irish traditional music and tunes that were traditionally played in Ireland, and then you go to the Appalachian, so you have the same tunes, but there's that really beautiful slight difference. So the Appalachian players play the fiddles a little bit different to how the Irish fiddle players play, and there's subtle differences, but those nuances make it something new and something different. So there's nothing phony about the Appalachian. It's just, you know, they took from that. And, you know, music, everyone steals. Frank Sinatra stole everything. That's his famous quote, right? So, you know, we're sponges as musicians, you know, and we should be, and we should absorb everything, and we should just, you know, and be authentic. If you're authentic, then you are not going to be phony. You're going to be yourself. And it doesn't matter if I start my gangster rap project, you guys are going to like it because I'm going to be really authentic about it. Of course.
Thank you for everybody for this, for me at least, interesting discussions. I hope you also enjoyed it. Please come to us if you would like to continue chatting or any issues. Here we are.
But without tequilas.
Thank you. Toomas, Mirko, and Mark.
Thank you, everyone.